The U.S. Civil War of 1861 to 1865. While the Revolution of 1776 to 1783 created the United States, the Civil War of 1861 to 1865 determined what kind of nation it would be. The Civil War in the United States began in 1861 due to a fundamental economic difference that existed between the country's northern and southern regions. The war resolved two fundamental questions left unresolved by the Revolution: whether the United States was to be a dissolvable confederation of sovereign states or an indivisible nation with a sovereign national government, and whether this nation, born of a declaration that all men were created with an equal right to liberty, would continue to exist as the largest slave-holding country in the world. After decades of simmering tensions between northern and southern states over slavery, the war between the states, as the Civil War was also known, ended in Confederate surrender in 1865. Northern victory in the war preserved the United States as one nation and ended the institution of slavery that had divided the country from its beginning. But the conflict was the costliest and deadliest war ever fought on American soil. In the North, manufacturing and industry was well established, and agriculture was mostly limited to small-scale farms. While the South's economy was based on a system of large-scale farming that depended on the labor of black slaves to grow certain crops, especially cotton and tobacco, and thus the backbone of their economy was in danger. In the northern states, where industry pushed the economy, many people believed that slavery was immoral and wrong. Southerners felt threatened by these northern abolitionists and claimed that the common government had no power to end slavery against the wishes of the states. Eventually, Southerners became convinced that the common government would attempt to abolish slavery nationwide. When Abraham Lincoln won election in 1860 as the first Republican president, 7 slave states in the Deep South seceded and formed a new nation, the Confederate States of America. Jefferson Davis was appointed President of the Confederate States of America. The incoming Lincoln administration and most of the Northern people refused to recognize the legitimacy of secession. The event that triggered war came at Fort Sumter in Charleston Bay on April 12, 1861. Claiming this United States fort as their own, the Confederate Army on that day opened fire on the Federal garrison and forced it to lower the American flag in surrender. Lincoln called out the militia to suppress this insurrection. 4 more slave states seceded and joined the Confederacy. The Civil War devastated the Confederate States. The presence of vast armies throughout the countryside meant that livestock, crops, and other staples were consumed very quickly. In an effort to gather fresh supplies and intimidate the United States, Confederate General Robert E. Lee launched a daring invasion of the North in the summer of 1863. He was defeated by Union General George G. in a 3-day battle that left nearly 52,000 men killed, wounded, or missing in action. By the end of 1861, nearly a million armed men confronted each other along a line stretching 1,200 miles from Virginia to Missouri. The war bankrupted the South, left its roads, farms, and factories in ruins, and all but wiped out an entire generation of men. After the battle, President Lincoln delivered the Gettysburg Address, which expressed firm commitment to preserving the Union and became one of the most famous speeches in American history. Lincoln had used the occasion of the Union victory at Antietam to issue a preliminary Emancipation Proclamation, which freed all slaves in the rebellious states after January 1, 1863. But did not go so far as to free the slaves in the border states loyal to the Union. By the spring of 1865, the United States defeated the Confederate States and abolished slavery nationwide. All the principal Confederate armies surrendered. And when Union cavalry captured the fleeing Confederate President Jefferson Davis in Georgia on May 10, 1865, resistance collapsed and the war ended. The long, painful process of rebuilding a united nation free of slavery began. During the war, Abraham Lincoln freed some slaves and allowed freedmen to join the Union Army. it was clear to many that it was only a matter of time before slavery was fully abolished. The Northern states added the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments to the Constitution. The 13th Amendment abolished slavery, the 14th Amendment guaranteed that citizens would receive equal protection under the law, and the 15th Amendment granted black men the right to vote. The 14th Amendment has played an ongoing role in American society as different groups of citizens continue to lobby for equal treatment by the government.